Deportiva y con swing.
Deportiva y con swing.
La factoría del deporte desde New York para ti. Es una máquina.
Es una máquina
Pensada para ti.
pensada para ti. Número uno en las redes, dale like y compartir.
Con informaciones importantes siempre frescas.
Y con entrevistas que te ponen de cabeza.
Lo mejor del deporte lo encontrarás aquí.
Búscale en las redes, dale like y compartir.
Suscríbete,
Ay sí,
infórmate.
ok. Dale a la campana para que te llegue.
We're going to kick it over to Dustin from Maryland's Sports Information Department, and he will lead the way.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. Appreciate it. You guys obviously had a chance to talk to Coach Locksley and some of our athletes last week, and we appreciate you guys making some time today for one final media Zoom before we head up to New York. So we'll just kind of start with Coach giving us a brief update on how practices have been going, and then we'll open it up for you guys questions. You can message me directly in the chat. So Coach, if you just kind of want to give a brief update on how this week of practice has been going.
Sure. Thanks, Dustin, and thanks to you, Michael, and everyone for coming on to this Zoom. As Dustin stated, we're finishing up what we call our first cycle of a game week. Today would be a Thursday practice for us. And then our players will have the next couple of days off to be with their families prior to restarting up on Christmas Eve and starting a second 5 practice cycle, which leads up to the game on the 29th. These practices have been so beneficial for our team. The ability to develop our young players while also, as I talked about, going back and really hitting the basics with the veteran players. Some of the things that tend to happen during the season is you become very scheme oriented in an effort to put your players in the best possible position to be successful. And sometimes fundamentals are the things that kind of don't get necessarily worked on as being extra important. And so what we tried to do here, the last 9 opportunities that we've had to practice, some being player run, but at least the last 7 that we've been out there as a team with our coaches, is really go back to developing our fundamentals individually of our players, because we do believe if you get better individually from a fundamental standpoint, collectively we'll be better as a team. And for us to have success up in New York against a great opponent like Virginia Tech, we're going to need to be very fundamentally sound as a program. And so we've really done that. And then that led into, the last 4 practices being all about our Virginia Tech prep. And we've had some good work. Our players have brought the same type of work ethic, energy, and standard that we've set for what it takes to be successful. And I've been really happy with the leadership we've gotten from our veteran players, but also it's been nice to see some of the younger players in our program, which leads us to believe that our future is really bright around here. So with that, I'll open it up to questions.
Thanks, Coach. As a reminder, you can either use the raise hand function or message me directly, and we'll make sure you guys get a question. We'll start with Alif Kareem from WDVM.
Coach, good to see you. This is a 2-part for me. The first is, how concerning is this trend we're seeing just across sports about rising COVID cases? How has that sort of affected your approach in these past few practices?
Yeah, the best thing for us is again, we did a lot of the work beforehand. Our player, we were like 90% totally vaccinated with our players. We recently had, I want to say 55 other players take the booster shot here in the last few days. Our medical staff has done a great job of being at the forefront of, making sure that we're doing the work beforehand and not being reactive. And so, but as with anything, COVID is a day-to-day battle that we face. We continue to stress the importance of player safety first and doing all the things we can to kind of help curtail it or at least, do our part to at least slow it down here within our football family. But, really proud that our players have taken the necessary steps on the front end that has allowed us to kind of continue to try to go about business as usual with our preparation. And then the medical staff that we have here really has done a great job of leading the way for us to be able to get through another round of these COVID cases increase.
And the second part to the question that I had, going back to the developmental side of things, you highlighted that your recent practices are Virginia Tech focused. How much have those developmental practices helped you prepare for Virginia Tech?
Well, I think one, they've really helped because, with the players that have really played significant roles in us getting to this point, it allows us to really go back and resharpen some of the skills necessary for the scheme to work. But I think probably the best part for us has been being able to evaluate, look at it, and see some of these younger players that maybe haven't gotten as many opportunities. And not, for us, as I told a bunch of these guys, we've left enough kind of meat on the bone, and that if we need to utilize some of these young players in this game, we will. And we now have the confidence because of what we've been able to get accomplished here, during these bowl practices, that there are some of these young players that I think will play a significant role in the upcoming game against Virginia Tech.
We'll go to Lauren Rosh.
Hi, Coach. You were talking about these younger players. Are there any in particular who you're really seeing benefit from these practices? Some of them maybe who are stepping into new roles with this extra time?
Yeah, I mean, I would have to, it's a long list. I've been really happy with the young running backs. Like I said, guys like Roman Hemby and Antoine Littleton have really stood out and jumped out to me. Some of the younger defensive interior players, Andre Porter, Tajay Johnson, who's played some for us. I've been really impressed with, Corey Coley continuing his development on the back end stuff. Ty Felton, Ty kind of played some for us and missed the last few games. These extra days and weeks of practice have really helped, him continue to develop and come along. So as a whole, because I don't like leaving any of these young players out of there, they all have really been benefited from it. And I've been really pleased with the development of these young guys. And like I said, whether it's special teams roles or roles within the offense or defensive system, we feel very confident that we'll have some of these guys be able to contribute.
We'll go to Wayne Viner.
Coach, of course, the story about the young guys is great. It must make you feel like you've really gotten to a milestone when all of these players who could have moved on, including Johari Branch, we saw a tweet from him today, have decided to stay. What kind of bump does it give the program when the guys that you've invested in decide to take one more year with you?
Well, I mean, again, I think, obviously with the transfer portal and what it has brought to college football. And, I know there was some angst amongst our fan base when we lose players. But as I've said from day one, the transfer portal is a good thing for both players and coaches because obviously, when you lose players, that opens up opportunities. And, for us to have veteran players like Dante Demas declare to come back and Johari Branch, and there'll be a few more here as we get into the bowl game where you'll see some guys make decisions to return for that extra year. I think it sends the right message that, we're doing things the right way within our program. As I've said from day one, the best recruiting job you can do is recruiting the talent within your program first and foremost because of the transfer portal, because of immediate eligibility. And we've tried to do a great job as a program and as a football family of providing a tremendous amount of resources to where our players want to be here. And they feel that when they leave here, they're leaving a better version of themselves. And so it's great because most of these guys have been really big contributors over the last couple of years. And just looking at maybe the impact that extra year had on a Sam Okuwanu, to me, kind of leads me to believe that having some of these veteran starters return next year will be very, very beneficial to the continued development of our program.
Wayne, did you have a follow-up or your hand function was just left up?
Sorry, just had my hand up.
All good.
No follow-up. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions here for Coach? We'll go to David Barnes with CTV.
Yeah, thank you. Coach, you've talked about how this extra week of practice has been good for you to kind of go back and reestablish some fundamentals. where do you think you've seen the most improvement in that? What have you really had a chance to look at and work on?
I mean, it's as a whole, I mean, to say like each individual player had what we call their own prescription. And so what I would say is my comment to the question would be, is that I've seen us put together practice plans and I've seen our players show up and deliberately work to get better at the specific things that we individually said each player needed to improve upon. You know, this wasn't a cookie cutter deal where we want to improve on these three things. I had goals for us as a total program, meaning I wanted to see each player's prescription be prescribed and then worked on, which we've been able to accomplish. I wanted to be able to put together a great game plan and give us basically 2 cycles to run through our game plan for Virginia Tech, and we've been able to accomplish that. And then last but not least, I wanted to be able to develop our young players through these practices where we've had a scrimmage or 2 with these guys, while also being able to evaluate them to see how they would be able to contribute in this game if needed. And, you know, I feel good about reaching those 3 goals as a program, but the things that each individual player, I feel really comfortable that each player really showed up these last practices to work on those specific prescriptions that we wrote for each one of those guys to be a better individual football player.
David, you had a follow-up?
Yes, thanks. You talked about last week talking to Coach Friedgen and the previous coach from the Pinstripe Bowl, name escapes me, but also throughout the season, you had players come and talk to the team. So I'm wondering if you've got any former players that you want to have come out, talk to your guys, and or whether you've sort of pointed some of your players to former Terps that they can talk to about playing in big games like this.
I mean, we always provide different resources to our players. You know, we've had a ton of people come watch these bowl practices. We did have, you know, Dr. Elko come in and talk to our team. We're always trying to bring in resources and people to reinforce some of the things that we have set within our program. But I mean, you know, it was great having, you know, Torrey Smith came and spent a couple of days. I know Torrey's contemplating getting into the coaching business, whether it's at the high school level. He spent some time shadowing kind of me for 2 days. We've had Josh Wilson, a former Terp, come spend some time here, but we haven't necessarily, you know, asked our players to reach out to anybody. We feel like we have enough experience within our program in terms of what it takes to prepare a team for a bowl game that we can get those things accomplished. But we're also not shy about our former players being active participants in helping this program develop. And we've had a ton of those guys really buy into what we're trying to get accomplished here. And it's been great having former Terps back in the fold.
We'll go to Ryan McFadden with the Baltimore Sun.
Hey, Coach, how's it going?
What's up, Ryan?
My question for you is how with Virginia Tech start the pro for Tech with for the Pinstripe Bowl?
Yeah, that question sounded like Charlie Brown's school teacher, Ryan.
Yeah, my connection. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I think we got you better now.
All right, my bad. It's my connection. Sorry about that. My question is with Virginia Tech starting QB hitting the transfer portal before the game. I think what has been the approach for the team preparing for Virginia Tech on the defensive end?
Yeah, you've covered me long enough to know that answer is going to be more about it's about us, not about them. Obviously, we game plan the personnel they have, and you know, if you looked at what they've done, they've played multiple quarterbacks throughout the year, and so they still have 2 guys that are threats at the quarterback position. But for us, it's more about making sure we've got our house straight, that we've gotten the game plans that we're implementing to stop whoever the quarterback is, to stop the plays that we've been able to evaluate on tape that they like to run. And so, you know, yeah, we've kept up with guys that are playing, and we prepare obviously based on the strengths of what that position is. But like I said, they've played multiple quarterbacks all year long. And so, I don't know how much it affects what we do in game planning. But we feel like they still have a couple of guys back there playing quarterback that we'll have to defend.
Next, we'll go to Olivia Garvey with ABC7.
Hey, Coach, how's it going?
What's up, Olivia?
What's your message to this team ahead of this big game? Does it stay the same, something that you told them all season, or are you tweaking it a little bit?
No, we're pretty consistent from a messaging standpoint. It's the most important game because it's our next. I do think the difference for us was that, how we view this game, for probably most of our fan base, they see this as the end of the 21 season. But for us, we see it the start of our 22 season. And our approach for games, don't change based on the opponent. Like, we don't have a big game because of this opponent. And then, a game against another opponent is a lesser game. So we try to keep consistent with kind of our approach and how we go about preparing for the next opponent. And so I think, for us, that's always been consistent with who we are, how we prepare and what we do. And, this one, we've just had a little more time to prepare for, which has given us the opportunity, like I said, to sharpen our tools fundamentally for each and every player. As we wrote these prescriptions, and now, again, all of our energy and effort is toward the game plan and making sure that we have that thing down pat as we go into, leaving here on Christmas Day to head to New York.
Great, Coach. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
We'll go to Ahmed. Did you still have a question?
Just a quick question. Coach, I know you just mentioned it's more about what you guys do rather than what Virginia Tech does. And I know kind of leading up to bowl preparation, you mentioned just how critical these practices are. So I'm curious now that, week out from the game, what have you seen from your team that maybe you feel most maybe proud of that they've taken that next step or maybe most confident in?
I think the big thing is just the approach they've taken to these practices, because you can get to this point in your season where all of a sudden things become mundane, meaning you just kind of aimlessly go through the process of practicing. And, these guys have been dealing with taking final exams, obviously dealing with the COVID situation and around them and having to kind of rethink how they live again because of COVID. But every time we've stepped on the field of practice, I feel the energy level is where we want it to be. I feel that they've approached it with what I call a deliberate mindset, that I want to get better at these couple of things. And to me, that's what makes practices be to the level that we want them, because you don't want to go through where you just kind of put it on neutral or put it on cruise control and go through the motions, which can happen, when you get into these type of practices where, the game is 3 weeks away and we're out practicing. I think the mental approach of how our players looked at these practices are right in alignment with how I visualize them to be, where they got better. We got better fundamentally, individually, and that means hopefully we'll be better collectively, when we go out on the field on the 29th.
All right, last call for anything for Coach Locksley. All right, thank you, Coach. Appreciate the time.
Thanks, guys.
And now we'll be joined by Maryland defensive back Tarheeb Still and Maryland wide receiver Rakim Jarrett. Please direct your question to which student athlete you want to ask the question, so we can kind of have them both on at the same time, but direct your question to one student athlete. Please use the raise hand function, and we will start with the players. All right, we'll start with Alif Kareem from WDVM.
This question is for Tarheeb. Tarheeb, the season, of course, you guys ended on a series of games where it was against very tough opponents, different looks of offenses. How tough has it been to prepare for a Virginia Tech team that is also still in the process of changing what it'll look like?
Well, it's kind of challenging, but it's not that bad because we got film on a lot of guys that'll be playing, but a lot of guys not playing in the game for them does change the look of their offense and how they're going to run it. So we're just trying to do our best to prepare, get film on guys, so we can just be ready for what they put in the field.
We'll go to Wayne Viner next.
I'm going to start with Tarheeb, but it's really for both of you. Tarheeb, being a New Jersey guy, does playing at Yankee Stadium do anything for you? Was it a place you always wanted to play, even though you're more football than a baseball guy?
Well, actually, it is not really a place I really much wanted to play, but, a place that has a lot of history. It's a good place for baseball. So actually just getting the chance to play there is actually kind of cool, I would say. But not really baseball, huge baseball fan, but the Yankees, I'll watch them from time to time.
All right, and this one's for Rock. What's it mean to have Dante Demas coming back to play with you for one more season?
It means a lot. I mean, Dante Demas, he's our guy on the offensive end for the most part. So having him being on the other side, I mean, you can't really double him or double me because we're both explosive guys. So having him means a lot for Leah and myself and the offense as a whole.
Thank you both.
We'll go back to Lauren Rosh.
Hi, I have the same question for both Tarheeb and Rakim, but are you seeing, Coach used the term last week with these bowl game practices as kind of the rich get richer, like once you go to a bowl game and you have this extra practice and development, it pays off dividends. How are these practices positively affecting each of you as players, and how have you seen yourself kind of develop getting these reps in later in the season?
Tarheeb, why don't you go first?
Well, I would say it just actually gives you the time to work on little stuff, the detail, really get back to that, because you get lost up in the season, the game planning for opponents. So you really get to slow it down, get back to the basics, and just fine tune your work. And ultimately, that puts a better product on the field.
To add on to what Heap said, I think it just kind of changed your body. The season ends in late November. If you don't make it to a bowl game in NFL, all of our next step is to make it. That season ends in January. So I think just training your body to withstand those long months in the season, especially when it gets colder outside. And just trying to mentally prepare for it all.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions for our student athletes? All right, Michael, unless you have anything else, I think we're all set.
No, that's great. Dustin, thank you. Rakim, Tarheeb, thank you very much. Everyone, if you have any questions about the game, credentialing, whatnot, please reach out to our office, credentials@yankees.com. You can also email myself, John Butensky, or Dan Laverdi directly to our emails. Other than that, have a great week, and looking forward to having both schools join us for the Pinstripe Bowl. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thank you all.
Soy Juan Bené. Les invito a que sintonicen la máquina deportiva. No se van a perder ni una en el deporte.